Hey, everybody. Welcome to Takeoff with John Clark. And we are talking about the end of the Sixers season, Nick Nurse being hired, James Harden, opting out, could be a free agent. So let's bring in one of the best. He's from the best inside the NBA program. It's been on forever. He was the original host there with, of course, Ernie. Let's bring in Kenny Smith, the Jet. And you've got a new book out, so we've got a lot to talk about.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Kenny, the title of the book is Talk of Champions. It's a great idea to go through your history. I want to ask you first about the Sixers, and then we'll jump into that. The report is out today, in fact, that James Harden is torn between Houston and Philadelphia. I'm sure when the money starts to come in, maybe he'll figure it out. But what do you think the best case scenario is for the Sixers with James Harden?
Well, I'm surprised, that, he's torn in terms of trying to win. You're playing with the MVP of the league. Anytime you have an opportunity to play with the MVP of the league, I don't know how you could pass that up to play with, some young guys who are trying to prove themselves and new coach, new identity. That's a lot to ask, but, I would not be torn. I'd be a Sixer.
And you are a two-time champion. You know all about Houston. Do you think that this is kind of like a leverage play by James, like kind of flirting with going back to Houston and trying to get the most money he can from the Sixers?
Well, I don't know if it's about this guy's, made a lot of money in his career. I don't know what it's about, honestly. But in terms of, an opportunity to win an NBA championship, it's going to come faster, obviously, with Philadelphia if he stays there. You guys are super close. A couple of plays away from advancing, so that just surprised me when you said it that way, unless he's not thinking that way. But in terms of trying to win an NBA championship in the next 2 or 3 years, it's in Philadelphia if you're trying to do that.
And for the Sixers, if James does leave and goes back to Houston, it's not like they can spend that money somewhere else because of the NBA and the way they're set up with their rules. Maybe they could do a sign and trade. Fred VanVleet's going to be out there. But do you think the best chance for the Sixers with Joel Embiid in this window of time is to have James Harden come back?
Well, James Harden or someone like that type of player, they really gave a lot up to get him. Also, with the addition of, Ben Simmons leaving, which Philly fans didn't like, but he was at that time a real commodity, So I think it's going to be a difficult decision for Philadelphia.
He's going to be 34 years old. And I know he would probably love to have the max, 210 million around there. Do you think if the Sixers can get something done for like 3 years, 150, do you think that's a good deal? Because I don't see them going all in with the max that he's looking for.
Well, no, I think if you look at what the Sixers are, I think they're in a transition where you have to get it now. You have to get it done now. You have Joel Embiid there, who was an MVP personnel. And guys who are MVP candidates are they're not playing for the future. They're playing for right now. And you have to bring every asset in to assure the MVP that you're trying to get it right now. You don't need draft picks in 2026. You don't need draft picks in 2027. You need players in 2023-24 season. Players who are ready and primed to get it done.
And how about the hire of Nick Nurse? Did you think that he was the best candidate for the Sixers job? Do you think he fits with the Sixers?
It's so interesting that, Nick Nurse, Monty Williams, and that probably Doc and all these guys are just moving, rotated from job to job. Nick Nurse has always been a good coach. He's proven that he's a championship coach. Is he a better coach for Philadelphia than Doc Rivers? I don't know. But, it's just a carousel that kind of one guy is just moving to the other spot. And, and now, Toronto's like, well, he wasn't good enough for him. But Philly's like, no, he's great for us. and then in Detroit, they go, no, this guy wasn't good in Phoenix. Oh, he's great for us. So, I just think overall, he's a good coach for sure. Is he going to be better than Doc Rivers? I don't know. But he definitely is a high caliber coach.
And obviously, there's a lot of pressure because Doc Rivers came in here. Brett Brown had taken the team to the second round. Doc, 3 straight years going to the second round. That's not good enough. How much pressure do you think is on Nick Nurse to come in here and get this Sixers team over the hump?
Well, I don't know if it's pressure. I think the expectation is that's why he wants the job probably. He's like, here's a team that has an opportunity to get past the second round. Because to me, Joel Embiid by himself, and if I can get 4 of my friends that really know basketball, I think they could get him to the second round. You know what I mean? He's that good. So getting him past the second round is what is the most important thing. So I think the expectation is there for anyone who comes in and coaches an MVP candidate or the MVP of the league.
Now, you watched Nick Nurse's teams, and with that defense that he had in Toronto, pressuring the ball, switches, the versatility, do you think that he's got the personnel to kind of have that same defense with
No.
Harden and Tyrese Maxey?
No, that's a different personnel. Siakam and Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, like those guys are all interchangeable. I don't think that you have a lot of interchangeable parts on that team. If Tobias Harris was in Toronto, he could play that style. He's an interchangeable part. But when you have position players, like guys who are point guards, guys who are twos, guys who are small forwards, they kind of fit the bill. I don't think that they could play the same way that the Toronto Raptors did when they won the championship with Kawhi Leonard. If you throw Kawhi Leonard in that mix with Siakam, it doesn't matter who's guarding whom. And so I don't think that he's going to play the same styles or even would be good at it.
Yeah, and of course, in the NBA Finals, we're seeing Nikola Jokic go to that next level, possibly an NBA champion. This is his 8th year playing in the NBA. Joel just finished up his 7th. And Nick Nurse was talking about, getting Joel over that hump and that maybe Joel could be more of a facilitator in the paint or in the post and maybe get to a different level of passing. Do you think that there is another level of Joel Embiid's game, or where does he have to get to, do you think?
I think there's definitely always other levels to your game. I think the biggest thing now is implementing a system that enhances the people other than Joel. Like, I think a lot of emphasis has been put on him being better or being this or being the go-to whatever. But there hasn't been a lot of emphasis, I think, or talk. It may be internally, but externally, there hasn't been a lot of emphasis on how do we get Tobias Harris better? How do we get, Maxey better? Like, I haven't heard a lot of that, which when you look at Miami and you look at Denver, you go, yeah, they're good. And Joel and Jokic is great, but man, Aaron Gordon and Porter got better. And Murray got better, healthier. Like, those are the reasons why they're in the finals, not because Joker got better.
How about those big moments that we've seen Joel and James Harden in over the last couple of years? A game 6 last year and then game 6 having a lead at home and then a game 7 on the road. Do you worry about the mix of players that they don't maybe have that Jimmy Butler anymore, the guy who wants that ball in those moments, the winning moments, and they seem to have come up a little small in some of those biggest moments?
Well, they came up small when they had Jimmy Butler, so they didn't win those moments either. Like,
they didn't have a game 7 with the ball, 7 times off the rim.
We don't remember how you lost; we remember that you lost.
Yeah,
and so I just think that they have moments, but I think it's about team improvement, not individual improvement. I think that's why Nick Nurse is brought in, because maybe they felt that Doc Rivers' team improvement hadn't reached its height. But Maxey got much better individually, over the couple of years. But did it mesh in the team concept? Not always. And Tobias Harris at times, I thought, who was a really good player, he could be underutilized at time. And, how do you utilize him more with his skill set? So it's going to be interesting for Nick. Like, this is not oh, wow, we have Nick Nurse, now we're a championship contending team. Because Doc Rivers, he knows basketball.
Yeah, you're right. Are there any guys on the Sixers that you would say, man, I think this player is really going to do well under Nick Nurse? Or maybe this is the guy who you could say, this is a Nick Nurse player, maybe like a DeAnthony Melton or any of those guys?
I really believe that the personnel is going to change based on the coaching. Because as a coach, if you're bringing in a certain type of coach, you also have to bring in some personnel that matches what you've seen him have success at. So I think that the person that's going to succeed the most under Nick Nurse is not there yet.
So Daryl Morey and some of the Sixers people, they say they believe Tyrese Maxey can be an all-star. Do you see Tyrese as getting to that level to be an all-star in the NBA?
Yeah, he has all-star level. But again, all-star level doesn't mean my team gets past the second round. So that's individual success. Again, like, there are certain guys that could be available that could help your team move into a stratosphere that we see Miami and Denver, Boston, and even the Lakers did. I think the Lakers adding Uchimara and adding, all of the players that they did over that trade is the reason why they went to the Western Conference Finals. It wasn't LeBron and AD. It was 3, 4, 5, 6. My rule is 1 and 2 can get you there, but 3, 4, 5, 6 is what you win championships with.
Yeah, and you have won championships. Your memoir, Talk of Champions, is a really cool read because you're going through your life and all the people who developed you and had an influence on you becoming a champion. How special was it to kind of go through all these memories? And did you even have a couple where you're like, wow, yeah, I learned something from this guy at a young age and that helped me?
Well, yeah, for sure. It was great for me. I got a great compliment for someone who said they got it for their dad for Father's Day because they had read it. And the reason, like, I read a lot of self-help books, and I just realized that it's always like from one person's perspective, where I was around 15 people who affected sports culture, pop culture, and politics culture a lot. I was around them. So each chapter is named after them. And so there's a Michael Jordan chapter, a Bill Russell, there's a Dean Smith, Magic Johnson. So you get to hear how they self-help. So 15 different self-help chapters. And someone said to me, I gave it to my dad. I'm giving it to him because I felt better about myself. Now I understand why that worked for me. And that's what I wanted. I just wanted people, I wish I knew this information at 20. I was like, man, if I was at 20, man, it'd be like, Adam Silver wouldn't be there. It'd be Kenny Smith sitting at the top of that league right now, like running the NBA.
Yeah. And what do you think it takes to become a champion?
Well, there's 370 pages of it in my book. But I think, things that stand out, championship people do things daily, what everyone else does occasionally. They don't do extraordinary things. They just do ordinary things extra. Like, they just do it extra. Instead of doing it twice, they do it 3 times. Instead of doing it 3 times, they do it 5 times. And so they can do the ordinary thing extra. So a lot of people try to hit home runs, so to speak. But the extraordinary person is really hitting a lot of base hits, and just a lot of base hits. They're getting a lot of 2s. They're not shooting half-court shots. They're getting really good things on a daily. So for me, understanding that is what makes champions, and it's a really a common thread through all the people that I have in the book.
When you say Talk of Champions and you see what the Miami Heat are able to do I know they don't like to say the undrafted players anymore, their teammates and everything, but Pat Riley, what he has built in Miami, how impressed are you with that? The discipline to not let any one player come in and change the mantra of the Heat and how strict they are with everything.
Well, I don't even know if it's strict. It's just a mindset because there's so many talented players in the NBA that if you succumb to the talent and not to the rule, you would succumb every day. There's so many talented guys. So there has to be a set of rules and boundaries that your team operates from. And then they're going to flourish in that. So I don't think that that's unusual. I think that should be the standard. But it's very tough when you get enamored by the talent of what that person is or these players can be. And sometimes you lose sight of that. And Miami doesn't.
Yeah. And you knowing what it takes to be a champion, when you see Joel Embiid go through the process and then you see what happened to him losing in Toronto and you saw the tears just flow out of him crying after that game. Is he, through these failures, not just him, but the team failures, is he building up that strength and understanding like he has to do more and the team has to do more to get to that next level to become a champion?
Well, I would take a page out of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, there are no failures in trying to be successful because there are disappointments. And he could be disappointed in what he's trying to do. And we saw that. But I'm sure he's learning every step because there are complete steps to becoming that champion. You have to experience certain things to understand what you need to work on, to what your team needs to do, what leadership qualities you need to have when things are going wrong or they're going right. Because a lot of times you need leadership qualities when things are going right. And until you experience that, how can you become a champion? You have to experience all of these things. And I think he's experiencing them, and he's still super young. He's right in the middle of his career. So, he's at the pinnacle, MVP. He's right there. All he has to do is he's just one step away or one push away over the ledge.
Yeah, and it's interesting because James Harden, I think some people in Philly worry, is he that guy to pair with Joel Embiid? Because James hasn't been able to get over the hump in his career and be a champion. And, there's always questions like, okay, is he truly dedicated with his body and everything else to being a champion? Do you see James as being that guy that can help Joel or pair with Joel to get over the hump?
Well, let's be honest. If you hadn't played with LeBron James or your name wasn't LeBron James, you probably don't have a championship in the last 10 decades. This guy has dominated the sport for the 10 years prior. He went to 9 straight finals. So if your name if you didn't play with LeBron James or Steph Curry, you didn't win. So there's a lot of guys like that. It's not just James that's not paired. Like, there's a lot of guys. Take away LeBron, the fact that you played with LeBron or Steph Curry, and now tell me are you a real champion? Like, it's hard to put it in. It's not many. It's not many in this last 10 years, this last decade.
Yeah, and look, I think all these guys that come through Philly are guys that lose their job. It's that Sixers haven't won a championship in 40 years that kind of hangs over the city, and everybody expects it to eventually happen here.
Well, then also, like I said, this is why it's so important, because we see there is some chink in the armor of both Steph and LeBron in terms of their age, that they can get it done, but they might not get it done the same way they used to. And where we had no chance. Like, now we got a little bit of a chance. And so that's why I think everyone's excited in these next 5 years coming up, because they aren't the favorites. We aren't walking into the beginning of the season going, LeBron against Steph. That's what's going to be. Like, and I think that's where we're seeing now this urgency to be great.
Yeah, and before I let you go, it's a great read, Talk of Champions, your memoir. Do do you have a favorite memory of Philly or an experience that you had in Philly or with Philly that you could let us in on?
Well, I think, because I played most of my career in the West, we only would come once a year. However, Philly fans are the most unique in this regard. Like, Knicks fans are very passionate. Lakers fans are very, they're passionate outside the arena more than even inside the arena. But Philly fans are very, your annoying brother. So, like, you can have an annoying brother, which mine isn't, but I watch on television. Mine is not this, fortunately. But, like, you had 30 points and you walk into the house. I had 30 today. He goes, yeah, should have had 35. And so they always want a little more from that. Oh, we just won the Stanley Cup. Can you win it next year? Like, it's that feel in the arena that I always felt that they always wanted more. And I felt bad for guys who played at Philly because I'm like, what you do is never going to be enough.
Hey, the city is helping to push them for greatness.
Okay. All right. To push them for greatness or push them out of greatness and push them into the fires.
It's true. I mean, some guys want out. Ben Simmons wanted out. Some guys just can't take it.
I'll say this, that you Philly fans enjoy holding the trophy without question. But you also enjoy watching people burn in the fire. Like, you'd sit and watch that just as much as you would watch them hold the trophy. And that's what makes it different. That's what makes, Philly fans a little bit different.
So it's the city of annoying brotherly love.
Annoying brotherly love. There you go.
Well, Kenny Smith, congrats on the memoir. It's a great read, Talk of Champions. I suggest people go get it. And we appreciate your insight. It's always great catching up with you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you, brother.